Hi and welcome to the BEANO Brain session, Harnessing 2020 Vision, where we've been looking at the COVID-19 crisis and the BLM movement from kids' perspectives. I'm Pete McGinn, Director of Insight at BEANO Brain. As many of you will know, BEANO is a British icon. It's been around for 80 years now engaging kids, has incredibly high levels of awareness and trust amongst kids and parents. What you might not be so familiar with is that 4 years ago we underwent huge transformation, relaunching as BEANO Studios, and we comprise of three main offerings. Of course, a creative studio that has the content and the comic within it. Also beano.com, which is our digital hub for 7 to 14-year-olds, and now externally focused specialist services, including Insight, which is BEANO Brain. Ever since the concept of BEANO's transformation was first floated, Insight has really driven all the decisions and everything that's gone on. There's big strategic ones and small tactical ones too. And it still does to today. And we have accumulated and harnessed an incredible amount of insight over 40 months of our core panel and millions of responses on beano.com. And we're in the privileged position to have been speaking to, engaging with and surveying Gen Alpha, younger Gen Z, and their families since mid-March, just as lockdowns were coming into force, schools were padlocking their gates, and huge parts of the population started to try and work from home. And we've done this predominantly using our BEANO Brain Omnibus of 7 to 14-year-olds in the UK and US, and our Trend Spotter panel in the UK, which is a 50-strong panel of very diverse kids across the UK. So to set the scene, let's first have a look at how kids have been feeling throughout the last few months. We've been doing this both qual and quantitatively to get the full picture, and we've really seen the picture change. At the beginning, there was a bit of worry as everything was shutting down, lots of uncertainty, things were very, very different to anything anyone had experienced before. But quite quickly, kids got into the rhythm of lockdown and in fact enjoyed the novelty of not being at school and at homeschooling and being outside more, a bit like Josh here, who says, honestly, I can't be bothered going back to school. There's been some real moments of self-learning and particularly learning new skills as demonstrated by Kia. But as it's gone on and on, kids have really, really missed their friends. They're hugely important, that daily face-to-face contact and interaction with peers, which is such a crucial part of their personal and social development. And that's only got bigger over time. Since the end of March, we've been tracking how kids have been feeling each and every day during lockdown with our omnibus. And we've seen some very clear trends in both the UK and US, where for the vast majority of the time, the overall feeling has been one of boredom, which I'm sure we can all relate to over the past few months. We've shown US boredom here as it's been high and stable from March through to June during the crisis. And the other emotions have been at similar levels to the UK, but with less fluctuation. Whereas in the UK, boredom really kicked in for kids as the second week of homeschooling started. It got really high before Easter, when they had a bit more time with their kind of families, and it dipped down a bit. And since then, there's been increased levels of happiness as the weather has improved and some measures have been relaxed. And the categories that naturally lend themselves to fun, toys, games, outdoor equipment, media have seen huge growth and huge sales growth. And those brands that went out of the way earlier on to bust the boredom have endeared themselves to kids and to younger teens. And there's no question at all, of course, that kids and young people have been anxious around the pandemic, particularly as we move into lockdown. And we'll come back to the longer physical, mental health and social impact later on. However, we want to underline that for the majority, it's not been a time of unending, all-consuming worry, but one of really serious boredom. And we've also been following what would make them feel better or happier around coronavirus. Of course, a vaccine being found and loved ones being okay are part of this, but both in the UK and the US, keeping in touch with friends has been paramount, and actually that's just increased as it's gone on by like 13 percentage points compared to late March. And in addition to this, and they have been and they still really are, looking for things that make them laugh, that give them a laugh, and that's been reflected in the type of content that they've been consuming, and also videos, memes, GIFs that they've been sharing too on the likes of TikTok. You may have seen lots of reporting comparing before to during lockdown, particularly around media, food, drink, clothing. But what's been so fascinating for us to see is which behaviours have also remained strong or grown within lockdown itself and for kids specifically. Activities such as going for family walks and cooking and baking together have become more established joint family activities, and decisions around what to do as a family have become much more egalitarian. Yes, families have started to operate more like SMEs, with mums typically the CEO, but there's also been a huge input from the rest of the business, and particularly kids who are playing a huge part of this and influencing decisions around what to do together, and that includes content specifically. Also, really interestingly, from looking at the pre-COVID BEANO.com data alongside deep down kind of lockdown restrictions and then those restrictions easing, we've seen massive changes around online peaks and troughs amongst kids. Most notably, in both the UK and US, that after school 5 to 9 peak period of activity, which existed pre-COVID, has changed. With everything that's happened, that curve has been flattened. And we know from all the conversation that this is where kids are going offline much more than before and having more dedicated family time together. And there are also now new spikes. In the UK during the day, when kids are or more likely are not doing schoolwork and many parents are trying to work from home, there's been a big peak between 10 and 4. And in the US, there's been a late night surge as well, where kids going online much later than they previously have done. And this all has huge implications over the summer, in the short term, but also in the long term. If schools blend in more home learning, if more parents are working from home as well, we think there are massive changes that are going to stay even when lockdown's finished, but as an impact of the coronavirus crisis. Now, we believe in painting an authentic picture of kids and families' lives and worlds, and absolutely know and acknowledge that many households have been grappling with holding down a job, trying to work from home, getting homeschooling done, perhaps caring for other people too as well. And that's been a real struggle for a lot of people. However, whether it's the nearly half of kids wanting more shared family content to watch together or parents getting involved in TikTok challenges, it's clear that families have found much more time to do stuff together and do different things together to really, really enjoy as a family. And that's been a really marked difference, and we think it's going to be one that continues. From all our conversations with trend spotters and their parents, it's loud and clear that this new greater focus on family time is really, really appreciated. It's led to a lot of realisation of what families were doing beforehand and also maybe missing out on before COVID. And a real determination to continue having more family time in the future rather than turning to the typically time-pressured, more frenetic family lifestyle that existed before COVID. And we think there are a number of short and longer-term opportunities here for media brands. Firstly, we are clearly still in massively challenging times, and kids are even more than before looking for that relief and some escapism and some laughs too. And as the personal and economic effects of families play out with lost jobs, harder financial times surely to come, kids will only want this to continue, particularly as this generation, as we've known from all the work we've done before with kids, are more aware of what's going on in the world. They're more aware of what's going on at home. They are definitely going to want some more laughs and some more escape as well. Jokes have been hugely popular over the past few months on BEANO.com. Just Eat have got this craving for humour spot on with the Snoop Dogg advert, and it's been absolutely loved by kids like that. Just giving them something to really have a laugh at is hugely important. And we think there's a huge opportunity too to help relieve the boredom and really bring families together and the different generations together, even if there are some still physical restrictions. A great example of this has been Britain's Funniest Family, getting the whole family involved, having a laugh with a little bit of competition too. We think opportunities like that and ideas and activations that bring people together to have fun in these times like this are going to be just as important as they are now. Another area that has seen huge changes for all of us really, just as we're doing right now, doing this conference online, is the exponential growth of video sharing and calling. And this has been true of kids as well, with well over 3/4, both in the UK and US, of kids video calling their friends in a given week during the crisis, and we've been tracking this over the period, and it's, if anything, it's just gone up over time. Again, there are a few differences here with WhatsApp featuring strongly in the UK compared to FaceTime, and perhaps the success story of lockdown Zoom, approaching half of US 7 to 14-year-olds who've used Zoom. What does Zoom do so well? Particularly for kids, it allows connectivity, obviously, but also with some element of creativity and fun in a very simple and accessible way too. And kids have evolved how they use tech to communicate and really harness video to be even more creative. Yes, there's lots of chatting and catching up either directly or with gaming, but gaming's been so fascinating to see. 2/3 of boys have been using video to increase their gaming experience, and the tail of what they've been doing on video is really quite long as well and diverse, and taps into a number of different categories that are I think relevant to the CMC audience. And these range from quizzes to crafts, from exercise to reading stories too. And Maya's quote here nicely sums up what's been going on, and also the impact of just 2 virtual brands that few had heard of a few months ago. And as lockdown has gone on, gaming has become even more important for so many kids, and we want to debunk the myth that still exists out there outside of our industry, that for adults that gaming is mindless screen time. Roblox for the younger kids, the 7 to 10s in particular, is a key messaging lifeline, a safer and more intuitive place than TikTok and Snapchats of the world. And boys in particular, as I mentioned, have been keeping in touch using their consoles. The likes of Animal Crossing New Horizons on Nintendo Switch, Minecraft has seen a big resurgence over the past few months, and also Fortnite as well, not only provide play experiences, but connection too, which has been completely disrupted during the crisis, and really importantly, escapism through alternative COVID-19 free worlds. 12 million players watched Travis Scott on Fortnite back in April, and in early May, Fortnite launched Party Royale, the whole zone where there is no combat at all, but is the dedicated area for users to congregate, play mini games, try on outfits, and just generally hang out. And they're also rolling out huge virtual live events too, where people can feel that kids can feel they're experiencing something together. So gaming has proven that it is multifaceted and a crucial vehicle for, yes, play and entertainment, but also that connection, the escapism, and the socialising too. And it's a virtual autonomous space where kids and teens can hang out, even with their restricted physical options, and a really important part of their lives as they grow up. So there are clearly a whole range of opportunities here for the kids' media industry to play and to innovate much more in these spaces, tying in with the catalysed use of video amongst kids. On the video learning side, there have been a few success stories during the crisis from some brands that were already playing in that space, like Kahoot. There is a huge scope to make this more exciting, more sophisticated, more kid-centric, especially for this hugely visual generation. So the challenge for you and for the category and for the industry is, can you offer something that's much more fun, more intuitive, more kid-centric than Zoom? We do think there's going to be on the ready as Zoom fatigue. What can you do to really create a more kid-centric and more fun and more suitable video experience for kids, and harness this creativity that they've shown and the hacking that they've displayed during COVID-19. I'm going to move on to SVOD now, because at the same time as the whole world's been consuming much more SVOD content, Disney Plus launched, pretty good timing for them, and there's been a lot of speculation around what that impact is. Now, we've been getting insight from kids themselves about what's going on, and as of mid-June, just under and just over a third of kids respectively in the UK and US were watching Disney Plus once a day or more. We've seen it generate a great deal of excitement, as showed by Amelia here, particularly in April and May, as lots of families took up the free trial. And the key battle, certainly from the industry perspective, is with Netflix. So let's compare that figure to Disney Plus. And you can see that just over half of kids were watching Netflix once a day or more in June. And there's still a lot of love for things like Fuller House. So as of a few weeks ago, both giants are doing pretty well. But we've been able to compare data from our omnibus from the beginning of the year that shows the changes and impact of Disney Plus across platforms. I think this is really interesting. We asked kids what they watched the most back in January, and then compare that to now. And you can see that in the UK, Disney Plus has chipped away at YouTube a little bit and Netflix preference, but most notably traditional TV. And in the US, the preference has held firm, but it's YouTube and TV where this has made a real dent. So the indication so far is that Disney Plus is not stealing Netflix share, but actually from the other platforms. So this is obviously a very pertinent, evolving and fascinating area for all of us to watch and to understand. Our main thoughts are if, firstly, Disney Plus has enough in the locker to drive paid subscription going forward. They had that free trial back in April. They've just added Frozen 2 and Hamilton on there to kind of boost new content. But how much more have they held back, or can they acquire to keep that interest and keep the paid interest there? For Netflix, we think the challenge is for the kids who are too old for Netflix Kids, but not quite old enough for the Stranger Things and Sex Educations of the world. We believe they are investing there, but is Disney stronger for that age group? And for the linear kids channels, can they leverage the social synchronicity that we've seen is really, really important and kids really missed during COVID-19 ongoing? We think there's still going to be implications for people being able to get together. Can linear TV do something there to combat the SVOD giants and use that liveness, the appointment to view moments to their advantage? Now, as I mentioned up front, we planned for CMC back in March that we knew our focus was going to be around kind of COVID and kids' experiences of it. However, it's impossible and wrong to ignore the impact of Black Lives Matter over the past month or so and look at the implications for kids' media specifically. So we already knew that this generation were frustrated and, quite frankly, in disbelief at how issues such as climate change, such as gun control, such as the Me Too movement caused such controversy in the adult world, specifically why adults hadn't dealt with it before and how it was a thing. For Black Lives Matter, kids have been truly shocked by what they've seen and also learnt about. Even the kids from a BAME background who we speak to regularly are surprised at how inherent racism has been exposed to be in both the US and UK. They found it upsetting, they found it really scary, particularly some of the counter-protests, particularly Trump's reaction. And I think Freddie's quote here sums it up. It feels like all adults are mainly divided. No one respects everybody. Adults need to see kids getting along with everyone and follow suit. If there is a positive side to Black Lives Matter, for kids certainly, there have been some notable role models who've stood out for them, especially John Boyega and Anthony Joshua, who have voiced what they think very strongly and also helped deal with the complex emotions surrounding the whole Black Lives Matter protests and everything that's gone with it. They've also noticed, interestingly, that people like Charli D'Amelio and other celebs have actually gone a bit AWOL in the media and have stepped back, perhaps being afraid of saying or not doing or saying the right thing. And that's been noticed by kids and I think picked up on. It's probably an area for people who kids really relate to step up and have a point of view and be strong with their voices. Now, we wanted to focus on media specifically here, obviously because of the audience today of the seminar and the conference. And given that BEANO Studios also creates content and we have kids media clients at BEANO Brain, it's been absolutely imperative to look at what's being delivered to kids from a kid's perspective. So what we did in early June is to look at, from kids' perspectives on both sides of the Atlantic, how they feel about representation in the content that they consume. We asked them, do you think the people who you see on TV and in movies match those that you see in real life? This could mean things like what they look like, their skin colour and their religion. Approaching 2/3 either believe that the people they see on TV and in their media does not or only sometimes matches what they see in real life. So it's pretty damning stuff, really. Less than a quarter think it does match, and they are most likely to be younger kids, those 7-8-year-olds, who perhaps have some more representative media, maybe, but are also probably less aware of what true representation is. For the more discerning 13 to 14-year-olds, less than 1 in 5 of them think that the people they see match their reality too. So huge amount of work still to be done. And just in case you're in any doubt, and what we know from both kids and also they're typically millennial parents now, is that they don't differentiate, and they feel that representation diversity for them are norms and should be norms. And parents in particular are increasingly discerning about representation and the reflection of real life in the content that their kids consume. So there's so much more to be done from both parents and from the adult world perspective, but even more so from kids' perspective. They expect it to be representative, and they clearly see that it is not at the moment. Thanks for joining our session. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it interesting, insightful, challenging at times. Please do get in touch with questions through all the variety of platforms that CMC have provided, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.